Hey everybody, Dr. Diane Mueller, and in this video we're going to be talking about mold, toxic metals, where do they come from and how they build up in your body. Now, all of these types of diseases where we have this accumulation of toxin can cause a wide variety of symptoms in the body. And we are exposed to these things all over our life, but how do we actually lower our exposure? Because really when it comes down to toxins in our body, it's about the amount of toxins that come in versus the amount that goes out. So we can control the speed of detox. We can also control the amount of exposure. So metals are really interesting because we see metals in, obviously old stuff. Like if you have an older house where you still could have lead-based paint, that's a problem. A lot of that is starting to circulate out, which is a good thing. But lead, for example, gets in our rainwater and our soil. So there's a great website called Environmental Working Group that you can check out. It's ewg.org to check out things like how much metals are in your rainwater or those types of things. So we're all going to have some sort of level in our food, in our exposure. Now, what's really interesting to note about this too is there's random things like strontium is a metal that comes up on a lot of people when I test their metal test. And cell phones, like the cell phone cover is one of the number one places where we'll see this. It's also seen sometimes in TVs, like on the TV screen, that glass screen will contain strontium. But a lot of us walk around holding our cell phones up to our face. The cell phones get hot, and so that strontium can actually go through our skin. So a simple way of reducing this is when you're using your phone, if you're going to be on the phone for a little while, put a headset in so your phone's not getting hot, which will actually degrade the metals a little bit. And then when your phone's getting hot and you're touching your face, it goes right into your face, right? So that's a simple way of avoiding that. We want to make sure as much as possible we are using things like green cookware to eliminate things like Teflon from our lives. So that's a really helpful thing. You can look up green pans online. Another metal that we see a lot of is mercury. So obviously if you have mercury fillings, that's a problem. So you want to make sure that you get those removed. Usually about in 5 to 7 years, a good amount of the mercury has actually leached from the fillings into your body. So it's still good to get them removed using a biological dentist that will help to make sure that as the mercury is being removed, which releases certain gases, that you're not breathing in these gases and getting the metals in your body. But if it's longer than 5 to 7 years, a lot of that metal has actually been in your body, and you're definitely going to want to detox from that as well. Another real common hidden source of metals that I see show up for people is cobalt. One of the places we get cobalt is actually in paint. So if you have dishes, cobalt is a blue color. So if you have dishes that actually have blue in them, whether it's mugs or whether it's plates, you probably have cobalt in those dishes. So one of the problems is again, when we get heat on things, it actually causes the toxin to leach. So when we get heat, we put a hot plate of food onto, say, a cobalt dish. Well, guess what happens? That cobalt ends up in that food. You eat that food, that cobalt ends in your body. So you want to be really thinking about these types of things when you have metals. Another thing to consider is we do get metals in our drinking water. So filtering water is a really great thing. Some of the best filter systems really are distilled water. So having a distillation system in the home for your water is going to be probably the cleanest water that we see from a research perspective. Those are a little bit expensive, however. So you can do reverse osmosis, works really well. There's also a system called the Berkey. The Berkey is a great system. It's just this cylinder that you can sit next to your sink. You don't have to hook it up to anything. It's carbon filter. It's really, really quality carbon filter that will reduce about 99.8 of the toxins from your water. So it does a really good job. It's going to be the cheaper way to go that doesn't require installation. But if you can do reverse osmosis or even a distillation process, distillation is going to be absolutely the best. These types of processes, especially the reverse osmosis and distillation, will remove metals from your water. But that's a really simple thing. Not metals, they will remove that, but it'll also remove minerals from your water. So that's a really simple fix to just add some minerals back to your diet to make sure you're not missing some of the minerals that do come from our drinking water. So from mold, one of the things that comes up oftentimes when I work with mold illness in my clinical practice, one of the things that comes up very frequently is the question of mold in food. So certain foods do have mold. Peanuts have mold. When we buy food out of like the bins, like the bins, the bulk bins at the grocery stores, oftentimes mold has been found to be in those things. And so when we're dealing with mold, yes, those things do contain a little bit of mold, but typically not enough mold to cause the body burden to go up very high. So if you truly have tested your mold levels from a test perspective and found mycotoxins, the mold toxins in your urine, it's nice to remove those foods, but it's doubtful if you're sick that is contributing to enough of the burden, that the mold in food is contributing to enough of the burden to actually make you sick. It's almost always going to be coming from from a place that is a workplace or home or someplace you frequent a lot. So again, I'm Dr. Diane. If you like this information, please subscribe to the channel. Information about my clinic is seen in the show notes. See you next time.